Hi everyone, I am Kunal and this is my fourth session for the UiPath community. So some of you may already know me, and for those who does not, so I have a total of 10 years of IT experience in backend development and automation, and I'm also the chapter lead for Kolkata. So today with me I have Akadip. He is a consultant in Capgemini with 2 years of experience in RPA, and he specializes in RE framework, orchestrator, as well as on test suite. So, with that said, our target for today is to go through the basic concepts of DMN, understand what DMN is actually doing, how it works, okay, and what are the core concepts and how we can implement the same in UiPath. And so, we'll have a session of 1.5 hours today, and every 15 minutes, I'm going to go to the chat and check if any one of you has pinged anything so that I can confirm, answer your questions. You'll not be able to speak throughout the meeting, so feel free to use the chat window and type your questions there. So I'll be checking it in every 15 minutes going forward, and we will continue the same for the rest of the session. So what is that I'm going to cover today? So I'll be covering mostly the basics of BMN, DMN, like how you should structure your tables, what are the rules, how you should write your rules, and all those things. In and Orkodeep is going to cover all the hit policies. Now, what is a hit policy? How does it work? We'll cover it into this session, but he's going to cover that part of the section which includes all the hit policies. So with that said, and without wasting any more time, we will go into DMN, see how to implement it in UiPath, and we will go through a business use case to learn the basic concepts of DMN. Okay, so let's start with the origin of DMN. Like, what is DMN? How it came into picture, and why was it invented? Is all that we'll be seeing in this particular slide. We'll try to understand this slide, and we'll see like what is DMN. Now, we all have been writing workflows, and in our workflows, we always use conditions, and we know the pain when a condition gets changed, right? So whenever a condition changes, our workflow changes, right? And so we'll have to download our code, make the condition change, and then we republish the package. So that's quite a pain for us to do that. Now what DMN exactly does is it separates your condition out of your workflow. It is something like your config file. So you have a separate file where you can write all your conditions. Now what the UiPath workflow does is it checks for that condition and implements the same within your code. In simple terms, it checks that particular config file and implements the same in your code so that tomorrow if there is any new condition change, you can do it in the config file itself without even touching your code. And that helps us to modify our code structure. And that's exactly what DMN has been is doing, right? Now, now you know that there is something called as business process model notation BPMN. Now this BPMN is closely linked to your UiPath Maestro. Now you can understand that this DMN is also interconnected with this BPMN. So any person who is going to learn agents and implement Maestro, it is very important for them also to know DMN. Now DMN is a standard which is accepted across all industries, and it has a standard language. Okay, so that is what your DMN is, and that's the basic origin of DMN. The main reason of DMN is we want to detangle all our conditions from our workflows so that we, if any changes come, we can do it in the config file rather than within the workflow. I hope this part of the slide is quite clear to everyone. In case you have any question, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll check it in every 15 minutes. So going forward, we need to understand this is a very important concept. Okay, so DMN conformance levels. Now, what is a conformance level? Now, whenever we implement or invent something new, right, it obviously goes through a evolution. So there will be different evolution levels. Like first, it there is something, then something new was invented, and then on top of it, something new came, right? So this evolution of DMN is what is your conformance levels. Okay, now if you see, there are three levels at this point: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Okay, so what is there in level 1? So in level 1, we could design the basic DMN. It's just like your diagrams, like how you draw your flow chart, but you cannot actually run your flow chart. You can simply draw that flow chart for business understanding or a developer's understanding, right? So the initial level 1 was where you can simply draw your DMN structure. You cannot run it. So that is your level 1, simply drawing. In level 2, external applications like UiPath or some other applications could actually run that DMN file within their code. So in level 2, we could run that. Okay. Now, and level 3 is also same, but there is a difference between level 2 and level 3. It is the language that has been used in level 2 and level 3. So in simple terms, you can think like C was a old language of coding, right? On top of it, now we have Python or Java, right? Similarly, in level 2, they were using a language called as SFIL, okay, simplified expressions, to write your DMN language. Okay, in level 3, we are using a more advanced language with more advanced features. That is FEAL, full expression language. Now, that is the difference between your level 2 and level 3. So you can think like in level 2, you are using something like a C, and whereas in level 3, you are using something like a Java or a Python to do your coding or to structure your DMN. Now, it's very important for us to understand which level UiPath is using currently, which level of DMN UiPath is currently supporting. Okay, so UiPath currently supports level 2, not level 3. So the current update or the current business rules of UiPath is limited only to level 2 and not level 3. Since it is limited to level 2, okay, not all the functionalities or the features are available within UiPath, but keep a lookout for that, because as Maestro and agents keep increasing, the usage of those keeps increasing, DMN is also going to get updated. And once it gets updated, you will be able to use the level 3, the fully functional language of DMN, where you can write any kind of a coding, or you can do all the expressions fully to make your conditions even more robust. Now, since it is supporting level 2 currently, there will be certain functionalities within today's demo where me and Arkadeep is going to show you that those functionalities are not completely executable. We'll try to implement those, but it will end up throwing error. It is not fully functional. The reason for that being, it is using a old expression, not the advanced level expression at this point. So that is what is the difference between your level 2 and your level 3. Okay. Now, there is a very important thing, okay, for DMN. Now, I hope that these two things are clear to all of you. I'll just check the chat to see if anyone has any question. If not, I'll move forward. Okay. Oh, hey, sorry, Abhishek, I just saw it now. I'll I hope it is better now. Okay. So just give me a heads up if it's clear to all of you. If not, I'll just try to fix that. Okay. Hey, thanks, Abhishek. Good. Okay. So now coming to your decision table, right? So now we need to understand like what is this decision table and how we are going to use that. Now, DMN has quite, so it's like a flowchart diagram, right? A DMN is just like a flowchart diagram. So in the diagram, you will have many activities, some rectangular boxes, some tables, some other object notations, right? So one of the very important object notations is your decision table. Okay, so because it is a table, every table has columns and rows, right? It's a table, so it will have columns and rows. Now it's very important for us to understand what are the columns and what are the rows. Now, the columns are nothing but your input arguments and your output. Your input and output arguments are your columns. Okay, and what are the rows? The rows are the different values for those input arguments. Okay, so the input and output arguments are your columns, and the rows are nothing but different combination of values for those input arguments. So say you have a different input, so your output will change accordingly. So now next time you give a separate set of input, you will get a different set of output. So that is what your these things are. In DMN terms, we call these roles as rules. So the rows are called as rules. Okay, now if I have to differentiate my columns of a DMN table. Okay, so broadly there are two categories: the input parameters and the output. Now within the input, there is three more categories. One is your direct input, another is your calculated value, and the other one is your referenced input. So three different inputs are there: direct, calculated, and referenced input. Okay, so now before I go into the demo and show you how to implement all of this, it is very important for us to understand the use case that I'm going to present to you now. Okay, so now you can see a business use case here. Okay, so there is a business use case for a claims. So an insurance claim officer is telling that he wants to automate the decision making process for a medical and a property claim. Okay, and based on that there will be a approval, rejection, or sent for review accordingly. Now to identify whether the claim will be approved, rejected, or sent for review, there are four input parameters that this business use case is telling you. One is claim amount, second one is claim type, third one is policy status, and the fourth one is audit limits. So there are four different inputs. Now, there is certain acceptance criteria. So they are saying that if it is a medical claim and if your policy is active and the claim amount is less than the audit limit, then 80% of the claim amount will be sanctioned. Okay, if it is active and the claim amount is greater than the audit limit, then 70% of the claim amount will be sanctioned, plus it will also be sent for review. Okay, and if the policy is not at all active, then the claim will be rejected and the and will release 0 rupees. So and the same goes for your property. But if you see here, there is a minor change in the if the audit limit exceeds in property, there 75% of the claim will be sanctioned, whereas in case of medical, 70% of the claim amount will be sanctioned. Okay, and for any other claim type, everything is going to get rejected. Okay, so that is the business use case that we have in mind. So as you know that there are four inputs and you have different criteria. Now if I need to do the same thing in UiPath in a traditional way, you can understand that there will be many nested if conditions and other things. But now I'm going to handle all of this in one single DMN table. And let's see how to do that. Okay. So keeping this business use case in mind, let's go to DMN. So you can see that I have loaded my DMN here. Okay. So as I said here, you can draw different structures here. Okay. So, and then you'll have your, we'll have object notations to implement different things. Okay, so basically the main focus will be on this table. Before we go to the table, let's come here and see what are the different things. Okay, so you have ideally, say you're getting some input parameters. Now usually how do we get our input parameters? We get it in RE framework in our in transaction item or specific content. Okay, so say there are three fields in the specific content. One is your claim amount, the other one is claim type, and the third one is policy status flag. Okay, using these three parameters, say I have, so I need to design this particular DMN thing. Okay, so these are your input arguments which are directly coming from your workflow. Input arguments which is directly coming from your workflow. So I've just, so to create that you will have to use this kind of a box. You can use this thing to create it, and you give the name of boxes. So claim amount, claim type, policy status flag is what I have done. Now let's go to the decision table. Now what is there in the decision table? Okay, first try to see direct input. So I said there are three categories of your input column, direct input, calculated columns, and the third one is your referenced one. Okay, so in terms of, so let's see the first column. So the claim amount. Okay, so the claim amount, you see that claim amount variable which I created outside. So see, this is the name of the variable here, claim amount. Okay, so that variable is directly getting passed here. So the variable directly comes here. Okay, so once you create that variable in the outside, you'll be able to call it here. See, I'll type claim. You can see that the claim amount is coming here, so I can directly call my variable here. Okay, so this is a direct column. What is the rule for a direct column? If any column value is coming into the decision table without any modification, I repeat, any variable which is coming directly into the decision table without any modification is your direct input. Okay, so if you go back to the use case that I was showing here, you see this claim amount plays an important role, but no there is none as such dependent on the claim amount. So it is coming, whatever amount is coming, it is directly going into the decision table. So it can be any number, right? It's a claim amount, so it can be any number. It can be 100, 200, 250, 300. There is entire possibility of numbers which it can, right? People will have different policy claim amount leading to anything, right? So how do you indicate anything? So to indicate anything, you just need to use this hyphen. The hyphen says any claim amount. It can be any number starting from 0 to anything. Okay, so this hyphen indicates your anything. Okay, so this is what your hyphen indicates, right? So these are all anything, right? So this is one of your direct columns. Now I have one more direct column here, that is my claim type. If you see this claim type, the claim type is also getting directly passed here. Now in the business use case, I had three different claim types. One was medical, another was property, and the third one was any claim type. For any claim type also, I had a rule. For any other claim type, reject all the claims. So three categories of claim type: medical, property, and anything else. Okay, so medical, property, and anything else is here. Now these are my direct columns. Now this columns comes into the decision table without any modification. Okay, so that's why they are called as direct input. Okay, next comes the third column. Now slowly we are trying to see what is a calculated column, right? So the third column that you see on the screen, that is your exceeds audit limit, it is a calculated column. Now what is it? What is the property of a calculated column? The calculated column is present within the table itself. Okay, it is present within the table itself. So if I have any rule, that rule I need to write it within this table itself. Now how do I write it within the table itself? Say you have this rule, right? If the claim amount is greater than audit limit or less than audit limit, right? Now this thing is getting repeated, either greater or equal to, or less than equal to, less than equal to, or greater. So you have this conditions here. Now this condition plays a very important role, right, throughout the my thing. So instead of doing it outside, usually in RPA what we do is we do the calculation outside and then try to pass it as an input argument. So rather than passing it, what you can do is, if you click on this, see, previously you see this expression here, I'm directly passing the variable here. Whereas what I've done is I'm assuming that my audit limit is 50,000 for, that is the rule. Audit limit is 50,000 for all categories of claim type. So then what I'm doing is I'm directly writing this rule here itself, and here only I'm calculating whether it is a value is true or false, whatever the output is, right? So I'm just getting the output here itself rather than passing this as an input argument there. I'm making it as a rule within the column itself. So just to show you how to use a calculated column so that you brainstorm and implement the same in your code, I'm just showing you the functionalities of it. So you can write expressions here within the column itself, and if you write it here, then it becomes a calculated column. Okay, now this greater than 50,000, it can be either true and false. So false, true. Okay, and the third one, so you can see false true, and I've also given a anything condition. Now why I wrote anything, whether true or false or something, right? Because you see this, I had a condition here, right? If policy is not active, okay, reject the claim. Now here what happens, irrespective of your claim number is exceeding the audit limit or it is below the audit limit, I need to reject it, right? In condition, whether it is true or whether it is false, I should be rejecting it. So that's why you see the third condition, that anything is also a part of this rule. Okay, so you can see this is a calculated column. Now, okay, so I hope the concept till here is clear. So one is a direct column. We have seen the direct column. Then we have seen the this column, the calculated column. Now there is one more column which is called as your referenced column. Now what is a reference column? The only difference between a calculated column and a reference column is, in reference column the calculation is done outside the table. Now if something is outside the table, what is the advantage? Say I have one more decision table here. For example, let's assume that there is one more decision table. Say I have one more decision table, and the same calculation what I did there, I also need to use it here for my decision. Then I can reuse it. But whereas calculate column, I cannot reuse it because it's a part, it is something within the table itself, it is not outside the table. Okay, so that's the difference between a calculated column and a reference column. So I hope why we are using a calculated column and a reference column is clear to everyone, like what is the difference, basic difference between a calculated and a reference column. Now I had one more flag, one more input, right? I said, which is the policy status flag. Now this policy status flag is returning you either 0 and 1. So if it is equal to 1, then it is an active claim. Whereas if it is 0, then it is a closed claim. So here, now this expression that I've written here, now this is only your S field that I was talking about, right? So this is the language. Okay, so it's just like my if else condition. So it is checking if the policy status flag is equal to 1, then this is your then part. So anything before the colon is your then part, after the colon is your else part. So then it is an active claim, else it is a closed claim. Okay, so I've done my calculation here, and this calculation only I'm passing here in this decision table in the fourth column. Now this is your referenced column. So we have seen direct column, we have also seen calculated column, we have also seen reference column. Now this is your reference column. Now here all these conditions are possible: active, closed, active, closed. Now I'll just take, for one of the claim type, I'm going to explain you all these three rows so that you can relate to me how I have done that, right? With respect to your business use case here. So let's see it. For a medical claim, okay, if the policy is active and claim amount is less than audit limit, approve 80% of the claim amount. Let's go here and let's see it here. For any claim amount, okay, if the category is medical, it does not exceed the audit limit, and if it is an active claim, then approve the claim and release 80% of the claim amount. Now, the advantage of this field language is you don't have to return the output and do the calculation outside. For each individual row also, you can write this kind of expressions. You can see I'm writing this expression within the within the row itself. So here itself I'm able to do my calculations. So the first criteria gets satisfied. In the same way, for any claim amount, if it is medical, if that claim amount exceeds the audit limit, and if it is an active claim, then send for review and release 70% of the amount. Now that's what is the second rule here. If policy is active, claim amount is greater than audit limit, approve 70% of the claim amount and send for review. Done. In the same way, you have the third. Any claim amount, reject it and release 0. Now one more thing which will be coming to your mind, like why did you write this M outside the, like what does this M indicate, right? So what S field does is, whenever you perform any operations, plus, minus, into, divide, whatever you do is, by default it is of the type double. It is of the type double. But whenever you create a business rule, this column outputs, it converts it to decimal. So there is a linkage between this double and this, how your UiPath is uh, doing this. Okay, so if you see here, this column is of number type, right? So the output will be in decimal. So if you see my DMN, I have selected this column output as number. So the output is decimal. Now you can obviously ask me, "Ki, Kunal, like why you did not use double?" Because obviously you can see in the documentation, right? It is saying that double is equal to double. But when you use this editor, you will see that this double data type is not at all present here. It may be because of the language that we are using or it is currently supporting. You don't have that double here. So that's the limitation, right? So if something is not of integer but it is a number in string format, then what we do a c int to convert that string numeric to integer. Same way, I was trying to convert my double into a decimal, and the convention in S field to do that is writing a m after your calculation. So I've just written that m here, right? So my number has got changed to now decimal. So now it is all linked. In the same way, now I've done it for property claim, I've done it for anything. So all that calculation done. Now my DMN is ready. I've explained you all the three columns. DMN is ready. Let's go back screen and I'll just try to see if there is any other questions. Okay, for now we don't have anything. Okay, so yeah, okay. So we have seen like how I've designed my use case, right? Now my DMN file is ready. Now how do I implement it in UiPath? It is very easy. Just we need to go to our orchestrator. Okay, okay. So you just log into your orchestrator. There is a tab called as business rule. So you just need to click on this tab, and then you just need to add your business rule. So create a new business rule. So here you'll be giving the name of your business rule, and whatever the DMN file you created, you just need to upload that DMN file here and simply add it. Simply add it. Then what will happen is that one use case like this will be created. Just like your assets. You create a new asset and you have that, right? Now within your code, what you can do is you get an activity called as evaluate business rule. Now wherever you see that, whether you see it in the orchestrator or with respect to the activities, everything is in the preview mode. So more is yet to come on this, right? So now you have your all the setup done. That is the minimum setup that you need to do. You have done that setup. Now just like how you select your assets, you select that particular DMN. So I had three in my orchestrator. You saw that. Now I can see all the three here. Now the whichever I need, I'm going to call that particular DMN here. So my DMN came. Now here is the time for that argument. Now I said, right, we'll get our arguments from RE framework like in transaction item or something like that, right? So you simply need to pass that value here in transaction item dot specific content of that particular key, and that value will go to the DMN. So here I've hard coded. Now you can see that claim amount I'm passing 60,000. Property is this, and the policy status flag is 1. So that's active. So you have an active claim of property type, claim amount is 60,000. So 60,000 is exceeding your audit limit, right? So then 75% of it should be approved. Okay, so we'll just try to see like what it is releasing, right? So we'll just go and okay, so I had 60,000. So in 2.75, okay, something like 45,000 should be released. So let's see like what it is doing. Let me cross check once like what is the in the decision table. Property 75, yes. So I had this 75 thing. So let's run that business use case. Okay, so if you see this output here, okay, if you see this output here, so it is saying policy is active, it needs to send for review 45,000. So imagine you had so many activities before, but now with one single activity itself, you are able to handle all these things, and all your rules are going into the DMN file. So tomorrow, if any changes come, immediately you can go into the DMN file and you can update it and you can handle your things. Yes, provided there is a limitation of field. So You just need to see which of this is possible in your thing. Now how do you learn this SFIL language is the question, right? So for learning this SFIL language, if you go to this UiPath documentation here, so they are saying this DMN compilant editor. If you click here, it will open this particular editor, whatever you are seeing here, right? And if you go into this evaluate business rule activity, you'll be able to see something called as SFIL. So just click on that SFIL. If you click on this SFIL, this GitHub repo will open. Now this particular GitHub repo has given you many examples, like how to use this language, where to use it, how do you write it. So using this, you need to decide ki what is feasible for yourself or your client requirement, and you can design it. So it's not something that you don't have an extensive document for SFIL, but you'll have to use this documentation itself to understand what is feasible, how you write it, and whatnot. So so this is one of the thing. Now depending on my input that is coming from orchestrator, different values will change, and accordingly my output will also change. So this is how, in very simple terms, you implement a business rule. You create your decision table. You need to write your expressions there, whatever is feasible. Then you just need to upload it to your orchestrator. You have only one single activity called as evaluate business rule. Just pass your input arguments here, you'll get your output arguments. That's it. And then feel free to use it in. The DMN, you would have seen something called as hit policy. Now here you can see there are many hit policies, right? Now Orkadeep is going to show you which hit policies are actually feasible, which is currently supported, right? And some of it may not be supported as expected at this point, but it is good for all thing which I have said that um, I'll be covering here. What is a business knowledge model? Now, so here I had so I have a literal expression. Now we know, right? In any coding language, you'll be writing functions. Now, what is the use of functions? To reuse the same thing, because you have a function, then you can call it in different processes and you can reuse it. Now here you saw that I wrote an expression. Now what I can do is, the currently UiPath does not supports this business knowledge model, but once it starts supporting, you have this expression. You can copy this expression, and what you can do is you can actually create a function here. Okay. Currently I don't think it is going to. Okay, sorry, I was using the wrong object. So you need to use this particular object, and here what you can do is you can create your function. So see, it is written as f, right? So here what you can do is you can write your expression, and here you can add parameters to your function. Say I want to add this policy status or something, right? So I can just create that variable. Okay, so I can create some variable here and I can pass it. Say I'm just creating something called as policy status or something like that. Okay, I'm just passing it as a number or integer or string, like whatever it is. So I have this parameter. So we just need to add this parameter here. So you can see that it is taking as an parameter. Now based on this policy status flag or this policy status, all that calculation will do. Now this calculation will return me an output, say in the string format or something like that. Just showing you an example. Then what you can do is, in this particular box here, instead of writing this expression, you can directly call that function. So if I have that function, whatever is the name of the function, I can call that function. So I have not created a name for that function. Let me call it. Give me 1 second. See, I'm calling it as function 1. Okay, so then what I can do is, if I go here, then I'll be able to call that function 1. Okay, so if I call that function 1, and I can pass this argument here. So currently this feature is not supported, but this is the feature. So DMN itself can have its own functions, different literal expressions, its own language. So whatever you do in a traditional coding language, most of it will be available here now, and that's how you can write your DMN. So this is what your business knowledge models are. So yeah, with that said, I'll stop sharing. I'll hand it over to Akadip so that he can take it over, and we'll continue from there on. Thank you. Arkadi, feel free to share your screen and go ahead.
Hi everyone. Am I audible? Hello.
Yeah, Arkadi, I can hear you. Yes.
Thanks, Kunal, for explaining us the concepts of DMN. So today I am going to show you various hit policies in DMN. So is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see it, Arkadi.
So there are currently total 11 hit policies present in the DMN table. So let me show you by opening one table. Like you can see, there are currently 11 policies present, like unique, first, priority, any. So the first question comes in mind, like what is a hit policy? So it basically defines how rules are evaluated in that DMN table and which results are selected when multiple rules are matched in the input table. So for example, in this DMN table, if multiple rules are matching, so from the hit policy we have selected, we can take the necessary output. So, stepping into our first hit policy, it is the unique hit policy. So, according to this policy, only one rule must match in the DMN table. If multiple matches are found, the system will throw an error. So, for example, let me open the DMN table. So, we have selected the hit policy as unique, and this is our table where the input columns are product category, its defect, and the discount it is providing. So in this table, as you can see that I have explicitly mentioned some product categories like electronics, furniture, clothing, with its defect rates as major, minor, and critical. And also in the last, you can see I have added three more rows which says any product category having minor, major, or critical will have these respective discounts. So as Kunal already explained that this dash in these DMN tables means any product category. So coming back to policy, so it says that only one rule must match in the table. So let's say we take an example like product is utensil, defect type is so that utensils are and defect minor are all in row number 10. Rule number any other rules it is not matching. So the output for this input is 5. So that is the concept of the unique hit policy is that it only returns one match. If multiple matches are found, it will throw an error. Let me show this in the studio quickly. So this is the evaluate business rule activity. And here I am passing the arguments, input arguments as utensils and minor. And defect is minor. And the output argument is discount, which I am saving in a variable. Now I will run this. As you can see, the discount it is giving is 5. Now, the next hit policy is the first hit policy. It simply means that when multiple rules matches the input, the system picks the first matching rule from the top of the table. Like if multiple rules are matching in, will pick the top rule, which is, so in this it is rule number 2. So for example, like if the input is electronics and minor, we can see two rules are matching, like electronic minors and any product and with minor. So out of these two rules, top of the table. So according to this policy, the out return is 15. So just showing you the DMN table for this first policy. Like same table, just we have selected a different hit policy from this drop down. Now let us perform this in the studio quickly. So the input arguments that I have added is electronics minor, and I have saved the result in a variable. Let us run it. So it is giving 15 as the output. So as you can see, it has given 15 as the output. The next hit policy is the any hit policy. So according to this policy, multiple rules can match the input, but all of them should return the same output. So you can see the table that for the input electronics and critical, we have two rules matching, rule number 3 and rule number 6, but both of them are giving the same output. So that is 0. So the output for this case will be 0. Uh, Showing it in the studio. We have passed the input arguments as electronics and critical and discount. The discount is coming 0. Two rules are matching and both of them giving the same output value 0. Now the next hit policy is the rule order hit policy. So in this policy, the user defines the order of the rules by himself. Higher priority rules are in the top of the table, whereas less important rules are in bottom of the table, which means the user decides by himself like which rules are higher and which rules are less important. According to it, he designs his DMN table. For example, if like let me open the DMN table. So this is the DMN table. You can see rule number 2, it has any product category with defect minor giving discount 4. And in rule number 10, you can see electronics with minor defect gives discount 15. So now according to the rule order policy, it will select rule number 2 because it is higher in the table. That's why it will give the discount as 4, not 15. It will give the discount as 4. Uh, just showing you in the studio. Uh, So it is giving 4 as the output for this policy, rule order policy. Let me quickly check the questions. Okay. Now moving on to our next policy is the collect hit policy. So it basically returns all the matching outputs of the DMN table. Like if our table has two matching rules for the input electronics and minor, we can see there are two matching rules with two different outputs. So what the UiPath will return? It will return both the outputs for this policy. Just let me show you. As you can see in the output panel, two outputs it has given, like 4 and 15, since we have selected the collect hit policy. It will also throw an warning message which says that a previous output value for discount already exists, because in our output panel there are two values of discounts. So it's just a warning message that two outputs are present. And our next hit policy is a part of the collect hit policy only. It is the collect count hit policy. It basically returns the number of matching rules. So if for our input we have two matching rules, it will give the output as 2. And if we have three matching rules, it will give the output as 3. So as you can see, we have two rules matching here. So it has given the output 2. Let me show you with an example for this collect count. So we have a table, like for defect severity measure, it will say action will say notify to the QA. For minor, it will say log defect. For electronics critical defect, it will send an email. And also for any product, if the defect is critical, it will say escalate also. So for our input, we have selected electronics and critical. So according to the table, rule number 3 and rule number 4 will match, and it will give two outputs, and the output will also say 2. So let me show you. We have selected electronics and critical. As you can see, we are getting 2 as the output. It is basically the count of the number of matching rules. For our case, it is 2. That's why it is showing 2. The next hit policy is the collect sum hit policy. Basically, it gives sum of all the outputs of the matching rules. For example, if we have two rules matching in our DMN table, it will do outputs. For this case, you can see it is 15 and 4 are the outputs. So in our output panel, we will see that the result is 19. Now currently, the as of now UiPath engine Data type is decimal. Let me show you. For our engine UiPath, in our UiPath engine, you can see the output variable type is decimal type. But in the DMN, the data type is number. So this sync up is not available yet. So it will come in the later releases. So that's why this execution will throw an error. Let me show you. You can see it has thrown an error. Collected policy violation type decimal not allowed for aggregation sum. And let me show you the DMN table for this. You can see the data type is here selected as number. We have only number selected, no decimal, nothing. So that's why this sync up is not happened yet between DMN and this UiPath engine. So this heat policy is not ready yet to be executed. Now there are two more heat policies, collect max and collect min. Basically, it returns for collect max multiple rules matching for a output, but it will return the output with the maximum value. Like for our input, if two or more rules are matching, it will return the output with the highest numeric value. In this case, it is 15. And for minimum, it is just the reverse. It will give the output the smallest numeric value, which is 4. Uh, Now the next hit policy is the priority hit policy. So in this policy, we define another column where we specify the importance slash priority of the rules. If multiple matches are found, output will be the higher ranked rule. So the business adds another reference column as Kunal was explaining earlier that we can add a reference column in the DMN table. So the business will add a reference column or priority column in the DMN table, which denotes the priority of the rules. For example, in this case, for input electronics and minor, two rules are matching. But from the priority table, we can see the business has given the last rule as 2 and the second rule as 3. So the last rule is in higher in priority. So the studio will give the output as 5. Uh, and as of now, we are not able to add this priority column or reference column in our DMN's editor yet. So I think we can add that in the later stages, in the later releases. And this is the last hit policy, which is called the output order hit policy. So for this policy, we predefine the ranking of the rules. For example, we have predefined like critical cases are greater in priority than major and it is greater than minor. And based on this, we select the particular rules from the matching from the table. For example, if you have selected inputs as electronics and one second. For example, if you have selected the inputs as electronics and minor, we can see there are two rules selected. But for output order policy, if more than one rules are selected, it will give the output with the highest numeric value as well as the highest rank also. So for this case, our case, the rank is equal as we have selected minor, but for the numeric value, the last rule has the higher numeric value. So it will give 15 as the output. This rule setting also is not available in the editor yet, and it will be available in the later releases. So this is all the heat policies that I have explained. If you have any question, you can paste it in the chat.
Hey, thanks, Orkadeep. And like, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll try to address it if possible. Like, I hope the session was useful to everyone. And please, I'll just share my screen once again. I hope my screen is visible. So as you can see on the screen is our LinkedIn ID. So feel free to reach out to us in case you have any queries. Uh, we'll also be posting this video in YouTube. So look out to our LinkedIn post to get the video in YouTube. In addition to that, if anyone is in Kolkata or in the nearby areas and you have a event to be published, say you have some topic on your own and you want to be a speaker for the UiPath community and you want to present something, feel free to reach out to us with your ideas. And being the host for Kolkata chapter, I'll try to organize an event for you, and you'll be able to present it here. So please feel free to reach out. If not me, then I'll connect you with the right people to create the event for you, but feel free to reach out to us. And next, like, also look out for the Kolkata chapter, because we have many other things planned for the upcoming months, as well as one more in this month. So uh, please stay connected. We'll try to present as much as possible. The most important thing that we need from you is like, uh, your feedback. So your feedback will play a very crucial role for us to improve, as well as my team to improve. um, Orko is a very new joiner, and this is his first session, but he has given his best. So any feedback, uh, will welcome that and try to incorporate it in our next session so that we can deliver much better results to you or to the community. So feel free to stay connected. If you have anything to be organized, feel free to reach out to me. I'll make the necessary arrangements for you to be a speaker in the UiPath community. And do stay connected in LinkedIn, because we post where these videos will be available, so that at any point of time you have a business requirement and you feel that that video is going to help you. So please do recheck them. So with that said, I will stop the session or the recording if there is no questions to be answered. Okay, thank you for everyone joining the session today, and we have one more session in